I know. I'm back so soon. It's a day of lives. I'm actually really excited by the fact that we have access to this amazing technology so we can all stay connected. So I just did a whole live a moment ago about how my book is on the second day of the soft launch at #1 in 3 US and #1 in 3 Canadian categories. And while it is exciting that my book is ranking higher than people like Malcolm Gladwell, it is not sustainable that I will be doing that. But the reviews that have come in, that's the part I'm super excited about. Over 50 written reviews have come in, and I'm expecting way more from my amazing launch team. So kudos and many thanks to the individuals who said yes and actually followed through with their commitment to write a review. Very much appreciate that. Without any further delay, let me introduce this week's panel. Book marketing can feel like a second full-time job you didn't sign up for. You poured your heart into writing. Now what? The idea of promoting yourself can feel awkward at best and paralyzing at worst. But what if you're marketing your book wasn't about performance? What if it was about resonance? At its core, marketing isn't about being louder. It's about being clear. It's about showing up with intention, speaking directly to the people who need what your book offers and inviting them into the conversation you're already having through your work. You don't need a 12-step funnel or a perfectly choreographed launch to make an impact. You need clarity, consistency, and a few well-chosen strategies that align with your energy and goals. That's exactly what I help authors figure out. Together, we create a plan that feels like a natural extension of who you are, not a performance you have to sustain. Whether that looks like a strategic partnership, podcast appearances, email marketing, or something else entirely, the goal is the same. Turn your book into a bridge that leads readers to your bigger mission. Curious what that could look like for you? You can book a complimentary 30-minute book launch brainstorming session at booklaunchbrainstorm.com. And now, without any further delay, let's hear from today's panelists, each one of whom have found their own way through the noise to connect meaningfully with their audience. Today, we have Kim Groshek, who wrote many books, including Win by Leading, a practical and inspiring guide that helps organizations unlock the leadership potential in every member through a clear, actionable framework for building strong, results-driven teams. Luci McKean wrote Protocols for All, 50 practical structures to ensure engagement, deepen learning, and improve facilitation skills. Your go-to guide for transforming unproductive meetings into focused, inclusive conversations that lead to real action using simple step-by-step protocols that lift every voice and get things done. And Marcey Rader, who wrote Reclaim Your Workday, Sustainable Productivity Strategies for the New World of Work, a guide for professionals who are done with burnout and ready to take back control. This book offers practical, real-world strategies to work smarter, communicate more effectively, and lead with purpose. Please join me in welcoming Kim, Luci, and Marcey. Kim, I'm going to go over to you. Just want to say, as I was reading your intros, I'm like, wow, somehow magically you all have something in common. This is going to be a really interesting conversation based on your own time availability. I think there's a good crossover here. So Kim, tell us a little bit about who you had in mind for your book. Who's the ideal reader? And welcome.
Yeah, so I wrote Win by Leading for the everyday leader. It's the ones who might not hold a formal title, but are at the heart of every thriving team, community, or organization. And the book's for those who feel called to lead, but aren't sure where to begin. It's for teachers, team leads, coaches, nonprofit organizers, corporate professionals, and anyone who wants to create a meaningful impact through collaboration and clarity. I also wrote it for people who, like me, have struggled with leadership, not because they lacked the skill, but because they weren't fully present to the moment or didn't see themselves as leaders. This book's a guide and a mirror because I share a lot of my stories in it, and along with the new concepts that I actually practiced and learned for the 30 years that I've been in industry. It's designed to help you activate the leadership potential in yourself and in those around you. Whether you're running a boardroom or gathering grassroots teams, Win by Leading is for anyone ready to build something dynamic, connecting, and sustainable, who want to shift from simply managing people to truly leading them. So if you're ready to listen deeper to yourself, lead smarter, and create a culture of growth and contribution, this book was written with you in mind.
I think that leaders who have the title get access to so many more resources than the leaders who could be leading more but don't have that identity. I had a podcast for 8.5 years where I interviewed people and asked them about leadership. I actually asked them to define leadership and tell me about the first time you realized you could lead. And I can't tell you how many of them that I handpicked based on their CV. I don't know if I'm a leader. I'm like, I mean, you wouldn't have been on my radar if you weren't a leader. All right, let's go over to Luci. Let's hear about your book, Protocols for All.
Thanks a lot, Robbie. We've got so much in common with Kim, I can tell already. So Protocols for All is aimed at a reader, any reader who works with groups, who leads meetings of any kind at all, and they want tools to help them work together better. This book will help you put an end to 2-hour meetings where nothing gets accomplished, and they're designed to help you solicit feedback, to hear diverse insights on whatever your topic is, and end these meetings with productive, action-oriented solutions.
You're speaking my language, I have to just say.
I know, Robbie, we get along so well. So we have worked primarily with educators. And so protocols is a word that is fairly common in that scene. But protocols are really structured conversations. And they're designed, again, to bring everybody together, getting them ready for the work at hand, and giving them ways to learn about each other's motivations and preferences in problem solving. And that enables greater collaboration and improved culture. So my organization with my co-editor, Michelle Mattoon, is we have been with the National School Reform faculty. We have been training educators for more than 25 years now in the context of what we call critical friends groups, which unfortunately is, in my opinion, tragically named. But this was named back when critical care units were brand new in healthcare. And so they named these critical friends group because what, after all, is more critical to your success than being able to collaborate more effectively? So we have a lot of trainings that we do to help people, I mean, way beyond what's in this book, to help people build trust and problem solve. And that's so that they can not only persist in their job as educators, but they appreciate that work. They go to these meetings and they love their meetings because they get help from one another. And that's so important now when so many people are leaving education and there's such a teacher shortage. But really, we also wanted to be sure to invite people not in education because not everybody, many people who have taken our trainings have said, oh my gosh, I can use these things with my family to plan vacations. I can use them in my book club to figure out what we want to talk about or to talk about the books more effectively. I mean, these structures are really useful everywhere.
That's great. Thank you so much. Marcey, let's bring you into the conversation. Your book's Reclaim Your Workday. Let's hear who the intended audience for it.
There are many, many productivity books on the market, and there are many leadership books. And so what sets mine apart is that every chapter is a different aspect of your workday. We have, task management, email and chat tools, meetings, vacation and time off, and so on. But within each of those chapters, I've divided it up into levels of individual contributor, manager, and C-suite or business owner. And within each of those are, tips that, that level can do or concepts to consider for that level. So anybody that reads it can do individual contributor types of, tips, tricks, and so on. But then the individual contributor who's not a manager, but maybe aspires to be, may see like, oh, a manager can do this. Or maybe it's that they see, oh, this is why, my manager is not allowing me to do these things or whatever that is, because they're seeing it from the manager point of view. As we go up in the, here's things that to think about for C-suite business owner, then that's more of, a very broad idea centered aspect of the chapter, and like how you can change from a cultural perspective. So I wrote this book really specifically for companies and teams in a way that they can kind of see by level how they can make change within the organization.
And you've got a few books. This is your third, if I'm correct?
My fourth.
Your fourth book. Okay, so I'm going to actually bring this question over to Luci, because Kim's got dozens of books. Marcey's got 4 books. Luci, how did you and Michelle decide to write this book? Because you've been doing this work for 20 plus years. You'd established your authority in your space. So unlike sometimes new experts who are trying to, like, the book is a shortcut, but that wasn't what this was for you. So what was the impetus behind writing a book?
Well, we've been talking about this for several years, as I think many people who write books are thinking about it and talking about it for years. And you can kind of see behind me, we've written, I think, 4 or 5 different training manuals together of protocols. And it was really important to us to have something that we could sell to the general public, because our trainings are relatively high ticket. We're actually developing some less expensive things right now, but traditionally they're relatively high ticket trainings. And we really wanted to give more people a taste of what we actually do for a living and what these kinds of structured conversations can do for anybody who runs meetings. And again, we called it Protocols for All. Actually, we had a great conversation with you, Robbie, about why the heck did we use that word? And it felt really important to use it in the context of education. And then kind of as soon as we actually published it and got to thinking about our other audiences, we were like, ooh, we kind of shot ourselves in the foot there a little bit.
Well, you just come out with a different variation. Someone was talking about Arm & Hammer baking soda can be used for how many different things? So you can use like this piece of content and just repackage it for slightly different audiences, because sometimes that's true. Sometimes it's for like employee, employer. Sometimes it's for kids and adults. In your case, it's like educators and people who are in companies. So it might just be a repackaging, like a version of this. But yeah, I mean, I think what's hard is all 3 of your books could be work in lots of settings. Like, people just need to do this well. Marcey, has anything shifted about how you approach the idea of a book? Because like now that you know how to do this, right? So like, you're not like, I'm proving this to myself. Like, you're okay. Yeah, I know how to write a book. So like, how do you make the decision to write another book? And is there a specific goal that's attached to this book that you didn't have attached to the first one?
For one thing, it's much easier for me to write now because I have a process in place. And I know people that they always have another book in the queue, right? They're always planning on writing another book. I didn't have a plan to write this book. I was told by a dear friend that I needed to write this book because my third book is very much focused on individual habits and behaviors. And most of my work under my company, Rader Co., is with teams and companies. And he said, you need a book for teams, not for the individual. And I was like, I actually didn't even want to write another book, but he was right. And I'm glad that he talked me into it because now, most of my sales are bulk sales to companies and teams. And it's great if an individual buys it, but the goal really for me is to sell to companies. So it's a different kind of marketing than I did with my individual, my books that were geared more towards the individual.
Well, it also, your friend had a great insight because probably both books are useful. It's just that this one ties more directly back to the work that you were doing. Yeah. Consulting, speaking, coaching, whatever the variation of that is. And the bulk sales are more likely to happen because the application is within a context of a workspace. So that's really interesting to think about. How do we move this? It's sort of like Luci, when you and Michelle were designing this book, you were in the context of education. And as soon as you stepped out of that bubble, you were like, like, I think we need sometimes that outside perspective. Kim strikes me as the kind of person who always has a book that she's working on and thinking about. So Kim, what's the thing that you love creating clearly, but what's the thing that keeps you putting something else out there? Like what's the strike, the match moment for this book?
Well, I'm going to say that I've been in the industry for over 35 years, and I was always called. I never had to sell myself to be into a company. I had my own consulting firm. And I knew when I retired, at the time when I retired, I taught yoga. And I said, okay, this is great, but this is it's kind of taking me away. It's like a whole different perspective, right? And it's like, oh my goodness, here I am. I was this well sought after executive consultant, and now I'm teaching yoga. Although it was good for me because I actually experienced this wonderful experience in a different way. And I've taught workshops and all kinds of things throughout my career and published a lot of articles and books. But when I actually, I kind of stopped doing that. And then it's like, now what? I said to myself, I don't know. But then I kind of just gave myself space, and I always heard the whispers in my ear. And what it was I had the secret sauce, because many times executives would pull me in the room and say, Kim, I don't know what you're doing, but keep doing it, right? Because I couldn't fathom what I was doing. I had this gift. And so what I decided at that moment is that I was going to write what was in here in books and in training and coaching and whatever needs, not putting a lot of effort into it though, doing it because I love it. It's a whole different concept. And I do like to write. And so I am very much about consistency. I know the process. I've been publishing since 2007. I do have a lot of books, but it doesn't matter how many books I have. That's not what it's about. It's truly about creating practical resources that can truly shift a person and how people step into leadership and into their situation. It's not about selling copies for me. It truly is to give people the ability to I say, wake up, right? To get engaged, wake up to themselves so that they can get to their core. And so Win by Leading actually was the start of that. I actually published this, I think it was 2012, and it's really a relaunch right now. But the book itself tells stories, my stories, and it integrates my concepts I've learned as I learned to become a leader at that time throughout my career. And so, that why I do it is because I want to leave the legacy, leave all of this rich material that I've learned and all the capabilities and skills that I've learned, and give it as a gift in a book or in training or whatever, right, to others. So it truly isn't about selling the book. It is truly about getting the information in the hands of a person. Either if it's that I'm standing on stage teaching it and they get the book, because that's part of it, right? You get to give the books as part of the training materials. Or if someone gets that they're trying to learn some of the concepts and they don't really get it in my first conversation with them, and they'll go buy the book so that they can get deeper understanding.
So many cool things I want to unpack from that, Kim. One is your book is a 6x9. It's about 150 pages. It actually was 2013, according to Amazon, at least. So that's notable. I want to say a couple of things about that. That's not the biggest book. I want to actually ask you a question in a moment about the sizes of your books. But also that a book, if it's relevant, if it's evergreen, if the content seems necessary for today, we shouldn't stop talking about it. Sometimes there's a gap. We get excited about the next thing, whether it's a book or TEDx or podcast or client work. We get a little distracted. We don't talk about our books, especially if we have more than one book, especially if it's been more than a decade. But this is a great example that as we're entering this conversation with Marcey and Luci, this book is highly relevant to this conversation. And I'm glad you're kind of doing this little relaunch of it, rebranding of it, bringing it forward again. But I do have a question about the sizes of your books. Do you purposely keep them at a certain length in order to make them easy to consume? It seems like you're not trying to pour everything you've ever learned into one book, which I do see sometimes authors suggesting. I'm like, no, I don't want to read that War and Peace book.
Well, I actually am the one of the founders of Tiny Books, and I have a little tiny book actually written to help people that want to publish their own tiny book. But I believe that it is important. We are at this day and age, we can take only so much in small little bites. And I believe that you have to define the certain person that the reader, right? You want to have that reader really read it, and you're writing crystal clear to that reader. Other people can read it too, but you really get the concepts down. And I usually I always say 3 golden nuggets, 3 major golden nuggets that people can actually take from each chapter. Yep. And then the chapters are short. There's about maybe 10 to 14. Some are longer, depends upon what I'm really trying to cover. But usually they are the smaller, tiny books that I write to.
So the book you have here, Write Your Tiny Book, How to Turn Your Story into a Book in 12 Weeks. We're going to put the link in the show notes as well with all your other content. But that's a great example. That one's about a 5x8, 100-ish pages. It's easy. It's it fits in the palm of your hand. It's easy to pick up a lot. I've been talking to people lately about, like some of them are doing these like 5x6, 5x7, 5x8 books. And it's just less overwhelming, I think, for the reader to dive into. And Luci, if you do come up with book 2, it'll actually help you sell book 1. That's another little thing that one tells you. Hey, Marcey, one of the things I think you've done really well moving from one book to another, if I look at the results of this last book, is your review count, which you know me, I'm like, this is like my happy place to talk about reviews, which no one else wants to talk about, but you do, because you did really good. So you have 71 total ratings, which are the 1 through 5 star. 4.9 out of 5. So that's amazing. And then 66 people took the time to actually write a review. So that's not by accident. That took some real effort. So tell us a little bit about how you approach that process.
Yeah. I actually, when you were talking about, I had to put my glasses on to see how many pages is my book. I didn't even know. So I have more reviews for the book that I just launched, Reclaim Your Workday, in February than I do for the book that I launched in 2019. And some of that is just knowing better and having a better launch plan, but it's also the follow-up. And that was something that you helped me with. And I have already given you the review for your book. And the title is like, I wish I would have had this book before I launched my book. And because it has so many important points to it. But the thing that was different about this one is that I didn't see it as the launch is over, because it's never over. It's just in phases. Like, I have to follow up and follow up and follow up. And I will say it's not comfortable for me to ask for reviews from some people, because my book is focused on companies. I send so many free books out a week as gifts to leaders. And then it feels kind of like, I'm sending you this book as a gift, and then I'm following up a month from now, and now I'm asking for your review. It's very uncomfortable. So I don't do that with all of them. I don't ask for a review from everyone. It depends on how I know them, if I've worked with them before. If they come back with saying something or texting me something, then I'll say, hey, that'd be great for a review. But I have to be more thoughtful about how I request it because of my audience. Now, the people that were on my launch team, I keep asking them. And I just released a book trailer last month, and I released that out into the world. And that was another way for me to say, hey, and if you already have it, get a review, send a review. And so every time I push something out, it's like, hey, have you had it a couple months? Let's do a review. So, yeah.
Let's actually break this down a little bit, because I have an idea for you. We do a little live coaching here, Marcey.
Yeah, because you're the man for this.
A lot of my clients, my coaching clients in particular, but also my book launch clients, they sell to the space you're talking about, executive, C-suite kind of audience, mid-level manager and above. And so, yes, there's always this like, how do I not offend anyone? But one is you're not offending people by asking them to do something that would benefit them. And so presumably you wrote a good book. That's the starting point, and it has a clear audience, which it clearly does. So here's an idea for you: is that you come up with a 2 to 3 email sequence that comes every time you give people the free book. It's 3 emails that nurture them through reading the book, and only on the last email do you ask them to hit reply and give you some feedback. But really throughout, you're just like, hey, how's it going? Did you get the download? You know, I don't know if you've noticed this, but the table of contents is broken up in this way. Given what you do in the work, I think you might want to focus on this, this, and this, right? Just like break it down. And then you might follow up again, be like, I know life is really busy, lots of spinning plates. Have you had a chance to check this out? Here, let me pull out a quote that someone else said about this section, because I think it's really, again, tied into the work that you do. And they're a person just like you in this other company that has your title. Like, and then the third one, it's like, okay, like now it's been a month in. I know that if I don't ask you now, this will slip off both of our radars. I would love to get some feedback about how this book is landing for you and your team. Any highlights, anything that stands out. And then you kind of go from there. If they hit reply, now you're like, let me walk you through how to turn that into an Amazon review. So this is, I don't talk about Gary Vee in any other context than this, but like, this is definitely this is the jab, 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 right hook. This is the offer, offer, ask. But I think that your book, all of our books, are incredibly helpful. But I also know that people are really busy. And so giving people some constructive, supportive next steps, and it's also a way to keep you top of mind for that first few weeks after that you've given them something really valuable. So how does that land for you?
I like that. I like the jab, whatever that was you said, and not asking for them right away. One thing that could be useful for your audience too is that I created bookmarks, because I'm actually not sending downloads. I'm sending like physical copies to people. But I have one side is like a QR code for resources, and the other side is a QR code that goes right to an Amazon review page. So I don't know how many people have used this, but I feel like I'm always reminding them to do a review. And if maybe eventually they'll be like, I'll scan this QR code. But other authors that I've showed that I'm doing this are like, oh.
So 2 questions. One is, can you find out from the QR creator how many clicks? Probably. Maybe the QR generators often will tell you that.
You know, I could, but maybe. I haven't. No, I know I can. I made it in Canva.
All right. Well,
it goes to a land. Oh, actually, no, I couldn't, because the one that goes to the review, I mean, for the download, absolutely I can.
Yeah.
Because that goes to my mailing list, but not to the review page.
Okay. Second question is, you said you made this in Canva, and then where did you print it through?
Vistaprint.
I did Vistaprint cards a long time ago, or the bookmarks. I used to do. I will tell you my biggest, like, okay, there's a couple things I won't do in the world. I do one wedding, my own. That's it, and that's why I'm not going to get married a second time. I don't design or host or run golf outings. I don't know why. I just don't do that. And I also don't sit and sign books for like 2 hours the night before a talk. I don't know. All these friends or speakers are like, yeah, here I am. I'm in my office sitting there doing this. I'm like, I can't just sit there and do that. So I had a card, a bookmark that had my signature, and like the little quote that I always wrote was "Be the croissant," because it was for that croissant versus bagels book. And that was one side, and then the flip side had my like the QR code or link or whatever it was back in the day. And if they were willing to co-brand it, then they paid for it, and then I gave them a template. And so I actually had companies who were buying my book in bulk. They branded it, and they just included my information as it fit. But that way I walked around with a Sharpie in my pocket, and I would just chat with people. And as we were having a conversation afterwards, I would just sign their book while we were chatting. But otherwise, I wasn't just sitting in my in my room the night before signing books. Luci, is this inspired you, this conversation, as like what you can do next? Because you're on I can tell you're on the hunt for reviews. You're starting down that path. We're going to help you get there with this next round of the Kindle flash sale. But what are your thoughts?
I've been jotting down notes. I've got books to buy and bookmarks and thinking about, jab, 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 right hook. Yeah, every interaction that I have with you, Robbie, and with these other authors is so valuable to me. So thank you for including us again.
Yeah, absolutely. Kim, I know that this wasn't your first focus. You had all these books. I feel like your tune's changed now. This last book is coming out. You're always now thinking about the next way to market and applying some of these new strategies. But what is the way you've been getting the most access to your books? I know you're a fan of just making sure it gets to the right people. Is it doing these cross-marketing things that we're doing together, like the Kindle Flash sale, bulk sales? Like, what's this creative stuff that you're doing to make sure the book gets to the right people?
Yeah, so I still stick to my plan, which is the same as before. I really build these into programs. And so that's how I've done it. So corporations buy my book, but it's really me who they're buying. I come to the stage, I teach them, and the books come with. And I actually did one book signing when you're talking about that. I did one book signing at New York Book Exchange. They had a big thing, and they invited me as an author, and I was right next to some famous children's authors because it was a children's book. And all my books were gone just like that because I was a first-time author. Like that was back in 2007. So I remember that. And I also agree with you with the book signing because I don't do that as well. I don't want to just sit there. It doesn't pay for me my time is much more valuable than just sitting there, other than I love meeting people. But it just truly is that I'm still in the process of designing a lot of my on-demand training to go with, in my books. And it's all being designed it's only been in the works of designing this stuff for about a year. The books have been out, right? Some of the books have been out, and it was like just to have them out there, and businesses would bring me in to speak at workshops, and the books would be a part of it back in the day. So, so I still stay to my laurels. I love the marketing you do. I always pick up something that you shared just now, you sharing that. I love that. And I love the review process. I'm learning all of that. I believe in that a bit. And I'm focusing on that. But it isn't my number one top priority to do that. So.
Well, I hear you about you're also being thoughtful about repurposing your content. So originally it was content related to a talk you were doing or engagement, but like an in-person thing. And now you're thinking about how else you can bring the content to people.
No, I've always repurposed. It's always been a repurpose. It's just taking me time to get there. So
Yeah.
I've been like in it, like it's okay, got to get the books there first in order to, and that's kind of my process. Like I don't just create the book and then do the repurpose. I actually design it in a different way, right? The consistency model. But yeah, it's always been the design of an on-demand course aligned with the books. And then also me going out and speaking, right? And the books are there as well. But it's always me. Like they want my knowledge. I'm only one person, so I have to disseminate it in a way that, everyone can get my knowledge.
Luci, coming back to you, what's been your most effective marketing strategy to get your book out into the world?
Well, I have to say that signing up for your Kindle campaign just kind of blew everything up for us. We have a pretty substantial email list and we continue to promote it, but we having that sale. And the other thing is that, we literally put our book on Amazon, and like the next week is when I got an email from you saying it's time for the Kindle campaign. And we're like, wow, because we really had no idea that you could literally type the name of our book into Amazon search bar and it didn't come up on the first page of searches. It was just insane. And so we were really delighted to have that. And I'm still working on getting more reviews, but I have a plan. I have more ways to finesse the plan.
These Kindle Flash sales are 3 times a year. And for someone like you who has one book, I've had people ask me, well, if I have one book, do I keep putting it in? I'm like, well, do you want to keep talking about that book? They're like, yeah. I'm like, do you generally talk about your book? No, not really. I'm like, would it make sense for you to focus on it for a few weeks, 3 times a year? They're like, yes. I'm like, I don't mean to be leading the witness here, but like, I think the answer is self-evident. It's like a little bit of focus energy. And so what I always recommend for the authors, because, you know, we ask you to lower your Kindle book price 2 weeks before the campaign. It's a 4-day campaign, but we ask you to lower your book price to 99 cents for 2 weeks beforehand. And that's your opportunity, Luci, to go through the short list of people you have, 20, 30 people who you believe have the book already. And you're like, hey, by the way, my book's gonna be part of this campaign. Could you get a review up, you know, in the first 2 weeks of July? And then just do the nurturing to help them do it. You know, I think all of us could take a page out of that to think about just little mini campaigns, little efforts.
And Michelle and I have talked about it too. She's a little worried about lowering the price 3 times a year because, you know, we're kind of coming through by the skin of our teeth these days in education, with everything going on in education. But I think that you're absolutely right that most people who use our book are not going to use it from the Kindle. And so having the Kindle as kind of a proof of concept is a great plan.
Yeah, I agree. I haven't even published my paperback for my book yet. And I haven't even told people that there's one coming, now that I think about it. By the way, there is one coming. So, and by the time people are listening to this, it'll be out there. But I'm holding it back because I want to focus the initial sales around the Kindle. And then for my launch day, paperback will come out. But I have that happen all the time, where people who bought the Kindle book during this sort of soft launch phase then end up going and buying the full book paperback. That happened in my last book because it was this like, it's a reference manual like your book is, right. And people want to have it. So
and plus we also have, one more thing.
Yeah.
We also, because all of our training manuals are spiral bound, we also offer that you can buy it spiral bound from us, which is also great because we make more profit than we do through Amazon.
Yeah, and it's easier to photocopy from. That's why you're doing it. Marcey, what about you? Any marketing strategies that have helped you get your book into people's hands?
Besides going back through all my clients for 12 years and reaching out to them and saying, hey, I have a book out. I mean, I've probably sent out, I think the last time I looked, I've sent out about 181 individual books. Mm-hmm. And when I say like send them out, like put them in an envelope, purple branded envelope with all of this, with a special note, send it to them. And then I follow up. I use Pirate Ship, which if people don't know about Pirate Ship, it gives you a discount on shipping. I have a label maker right here, that laser called, it's a Polono label maker, and it's super fast to print stuff out, from Pirate Ship onto this label maker, put it in the purple branded envelope. You can't miss it. And people have told me, well, I had to open it because it's in this purple envelope. And so then I can see in Pirate Ship when it was delivered. And so then I follow up and I say, hey, did you get your book? Even though I know they got their book. And then I follow up. My thing is about 30 days later, I'll follow up. Maybe now I'll do that more. The other thing that I did is I asked ChatGPT to give me a list of people in HR and different companies based on companies that I work with, and who would enjoy my book. And so I think I sent maybe out like 15 to people that reached out over LinkedIn, and maybe I think like 7 or 8 said, yeah, I've liked your book. I don't know if they've all read it. I don't know if they've left a review. I mean, there's been some that we communicated a few times about the book, but to me, it's always long tail, because they could think about me 6 months from now, mm-hmm. when this orange book, they see this sitting around and be like, you know what, we should bring that woman in or bring that company in. So that's also part. Oh, well, and then also I spoke at a conference last week for about 65 high level, like C-suite season Vs for the travel industry. And I had the conference organizer ask if they wanted a book. So because I didn't want to take 65 books and bring home like 50 books or something, and all that. So I just like, if they want a book, I'll send it to them in advance. And that was actually better. I had about 15 people take me up on that. And then that starts like an email conversation. And then I can follow up with them individually because I have the whole pirate ship information. Whereas if I just gave it to them at the conference, then I don't have their information.
Okay. Wow. I love when people are willing to share the like, this is how my offices run kind of conversation, like detail.
Yeah, I just gave up some gold right there.
Yeah, but you also follow through, which most people, that's the challenge they have. So you're very strategic. You're very focused on who will benefit from reading this book. How do I get it into their hands? You also are doing some really great branding so that your stuff stands out, and you're sending them a physical copy of the book. And I will tell you, people do not easily throw away books. So
that's why I do it.
Yeah, even if they don't keep your book, they're going to hand it off to somebody else. It will end up somewhere on someone's shelf. It will not end up in the recycling bin. So that's cool, but very memorable. And this pirate ship I'd never heard of, so definitely going to put a link in the show notes for that. And if you send me a message about what the label maker was, we'll put that in there as well. I just think I think conceptually it's too hard. Like, I'll admit, I still have nearly 100 books from my last book in 2023 that I bought with a plan, but it was super vague plan that I was going to ship them out. And then I kept changing my mind about the plan. And now I have 100 books sitting there, right? Like, and I don't need money back from these books. Like, I just want these books to be used. So I'm thinking about, well, what is the easiest way to get these in the right hands? So if anyone listening wants a copy of Break Out of Boredom, Low-Tech Solutions for Highly Engaging Zoom Events, y'all just got to reach out to me, and I will ship one out to you. I might even deign to write my name inside.
You might now.
I might do that.
Yeah, can I just say, I have a recurring task every week that I ship books. And so, if you don't make it a recurring task, you're just not going to do it. Because everything else will take priority over it. Because it's not something you have to do. So that's why it's just a recurring task for me.
This is great. As we wrap up here, I just want to know if there's any other advice you would give someone who's writing a book to grow their business. So Kim, I'm going to come over to you. That could be, something you've said before, something someone else was talking about, like just generally, how do people think differently so that they get good results from their effort?
Well, I think the first thing is really knowing your avatar, your client that you're writing to. That is almost the biggest thing that I'm always nagging my clients as they are trying to write their books for creating their legacy. They struggle with it. I think people struggle with that one person that you're talking to, not 10 people, not 4 people, but one. I think that is the crystal clear start. And then from there, having the strategy. I love Marcey. I got a lot of great golden nuggets from you. Thank you so much. I think a lot of those, making sure like getting your book, Robbie, and getting the whole process around that, the beta readers, all those things that I'm participating in with you, learning all that process, right, beforehand, so that you know what you're going to be doing, and then setting really the precedent to it. I always say put a 15-minute time box on your calendar every day for 5 days or whatever your working days are, so that is reminding you to just step away and focus for 15 minutes on something, some kind of results, and then get a coach that can help support you along the way because you're learning, right?
Coaches need coaches. I like that the time box. I'm a big fan of that. Like, give it some clear parameters. And the only thing we can really control is our own output, not whether people respond. So, Marcey, you don't know whether these books are going to result, but it's a long tail, right? So you got to get the books out there, or else what's the point? And eventually something might come back. So kudos to you for just like measuring the part that you can control. Luci, let me come over to you. Any advice you'd share with people writing a book to help them grow their business?
Well, definitely get your books first so that they don't do like we did and just write the book and then expect it to sell and get reviews. That's anyway. And then also I think beyond what Amazon can do, because they were so you can only do a Kindle in particular sorts of ways, and you can only do the perfect bound books, and you can't do spiral bound. And I think we're going to put together some postcards that we can mail out to people. So I think beyond the book in ways that will support your bigger business.
Yeah, I love that we're thinking about, like, there's Amazon, but there's also Draft to Digital as a way to get ebooks far and wide. There's Ingram Spark to get your book into bookstores, into libraries, and then there's also creating products like other decks of cards, flashcards, index cards, posters. I mean, I have a poster from the Four Agreements up in my office. Like, there's merch. There is merch to be made and to be bought for all kinds of things. Marcey, what about advice you have for these folks?
I'm going to save people thousands of dollars. So I recorded the audio for my third book, and because that book has so much technology and some things have changed since then, I've updated it 4 times. And I took the audio off, and then I learned, then Amazon Virtual Voice came out. It's not perfect, good enough. And I wish that I had, because I spent a few $1,000s to record Reclaim Your Workday out of pressure by a couple of people. And I wish I had not. I wish I had just used the Amazon Virtual Voice, which is free. Because I am not going to sell enough audiobooks to make back $3,000. And we don't sell business books, most of us, to make money from the books. I know that it's for people to buy us, but even that, it was so, and that's not even the time involved. And I am listening to a book right now from Rory and AJ Vaden, and they're huge. And they used they used a virtual voice, and it's great. And I was just thinking, oh my gosh, I spent so much money I didn't need to. So if you are thinking, oh, I must record an audiobook, do the virtual voice first and just see if it's good enough. Then, because most business books are also like reference books. And like my books they're not even the kind of books that are great in audio, because you want to be able to highlight and make notes and things. So don't spend the money, just use a virtual voice.
Well, and I think more than anything, understand what your audience actually needs. Like, get advice from your ultimate reader, not from your colleagues and fellow experts who might have opinions. Because I got chastised because I don't have any books for sale as audio. My first one, I did an audio version, but I gave away as bonus content back when I didn't have a lot of bonus content. Now I'm just like tripping over bonus content, but we start somewhere. But yeah, my books really, I think, even, ebooks fine because you can highlight, but I think most people really find value in the paperback. But I listen to a lot of audiobooks. So like, I also understand why people would want to like listen on the go.
Do too.
And then maybe look at an ebook later. And I get it, but I love that you're I actually haven't talked to anyone who's done that process. So I'm glad you appreciated the results, and I'm sure it's only going to get better. I mean, this is one way AI might actually save us a little bit of money. But, also, if you feel like your story is compelling, I mean, there's some stuff, Kim, that you're doing where your voice being part of it may actually make a difference because it's your story. So it's about knowing your audience and understanding that impact. But great feedback. So now we're going to have people find out how to follow you and find you and get in touch with you about your work. Let's go over to Kim. Kim, how can people connect with you?
Yeah, you can find me at my name, kimgroshek.com. Everything is there. There's a lot of free resources that associate with the book. So you can go out there. You can actually listen to my podcast that actually has little snippets of information. And then you can find me on LinkedIn. That's where I'm most active on social media, K Groshek, or search for Kim Groshek.
I'm going to put all the links, by the way, at bizbookpubhub.com. Luci, let's go over to you. How can people find you and follow your work?
I just changed my headline because the best way to reach me is at my work website, which is nsrfharmony.org. And again, that's where you can either go through us to get it at Amazon, or you can get Spiral Bound.
Brilliant. And how about Marcey?
reclaimyourworkday.com, or you can find helloraderco.com. And I'm also active on LinkedIn.
Fantastic. We're going to put all the links in the show notes at bizbookpubhub.com, where you'll also find all the show notes from all the other episodes that come out every Tuesday and Thursday, chock full of valuable conversations, actionable takeaways, and action steps. I love it. And you're also going to get invited at bizbookpubhub.com to a free virtual networking event that we host every month. These Kindle flash sales that we mentioned that happen 3 times a year. And just so much more. I can't even think of it all. So go over to bizbookpubhub.com, and thank you, panel, so much for your time today.
Thanks, Robbie.
Thanks, Robbie.
Thank you.